Bola Tinubu is, of course, winning a lot of hearts, you would say, as he continues to breathe fresh air into his administration. And the latest is the indefinite suspension of the chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, Abdulrasheed Bawa, from office on Wednesday. This is to allow for a thorough investigation into his conduct in office following weighty allegations of abuse of office against him. After the suspension, Bawa submitted himself for interrogation by the Department of State Service, DSS, following earlier invitation. In a statement, the Public Relations Officer of the DSS, Peter Afunaya, said the invitation relates to some investigation concerning him. BKO, we can recall that a few weeks before the end of the last administration, the former governor of Zamfara State, Matawale, accused the EFCC chairman of demanding some payments to pacify him from pressing charges against him. There have been lots of allegations, but the decision by the president to ease him away from office, to give him a chance to defend himself during investigation, has been greeted by a lot of commendations in the recent hours that the news broke. Let's go into the issues. What were the issues laid before Abdulrasheed Bawa that he has to defend now?
Most of what they have against him are not in the public domain, but there have been allegations unproven. So it's up to him to prove that indeed it's as clean as a whistle. Bawa was also notorious for disobeying the courts. Two different judges directed the Inspector General of Police to arrest him and then commit him to prison. When a judge gives a directive, especially in a matter that was brought before the judge by somebody who felt aggrieved by the conduct of the EFCC towards him, the EFCC chairman cannot behave like he's bigger than the law or that he's bigger than the rest of us. People can say, oh, the Kogi matter is different, but before the Kogi matter was an ordinary Nigerian who approached the courts, lodged complaints about the EFCC, and the court gave an order in his favor, which the EFCC chairman refused to obey. We can't have a country where some people will think that, okay, they are even the law, or that they are bigger than the state. No. There have also been a case of the BFCC even helping an agency of government to collect payments. I wasn't aware that that was part of the job description
of the EFCC.
Of the EFCC. I wasn't aware. Until today, we do not know whether the payments that were received have been fully remitted to the agency concerned. So there are questions to answer in terms of the way the EFCC has been run. I want to see an EFCC that is properly run, not a politicized EFCC, because even when you see the people they go after, you know that these people are sometimes influenced by politics. And that should not be the case. We can't have a situation in which some of our people would be harassed, maybe because some powerful people in government do not like them. You go after them repeatedly and all that. No, nobody wants to see that. And many people in the EFCC, many of the staff, they are parading wealth way beyond their income. It is public knowledge That has to be investigated. It means that they are using their position to enrich themselves, to feather their nest and all that. And some of what I expected to change with the coming of this young man has not, those things are still happening. The consistent media trial by the EFCC. Consistent media trial. That has to stop. Do your job diligently. So now, he's been quizzed briefly by the DSS, and apparently they don't want to keep him and Emefiele in the same place. So he's been transferred somewhere else. So his investigation will continue. But I'm sure before even arresting him, they must have gathered some goods against him. So in the coming days, we'll know what are actually behind all of this. But you can also not wish away the allegation by the governor because he claimed that he had evidence. You know?
Okay, let me come to you, Dari. I mean, BKO has done well to lay the issues on the table. I mean, according to the press statement from the State House on Wednesday night, there are weighty allegations of abuse of power, a part of which BKO have highlighted, media tryout without convictions, endless, witch hunting of citizens for reasons, I mean, the courts could not even substantiate. Let's talk about Bawa himself. His emergence after the old Magu incidents, would you say he is another puppet in the hands of the cabal, just like Emefiele was?
In fact, Bawa's issue surprises a lot of people because he's a young man who came in the crest of expectations following the issues with Magu, his predecessor. And at the onset, he gave a lot of promises, but gradually, the EFCC under him returned to its old ways. I was discussing this somewhere else, and I said, after the first 2 years of the last administration under President Muhammadu Buhari, it was as if that administration got tired of fighting corruption and allowed corruption to fester. EFCC was one of those agencies that aided this festering of corruption under the administration. Because all we started seeing afterwards were obvious political arrests. You could argue and win that this arrest is politically motivated. Aside that, Bawa and his agency practically became more interested in running after Yahoo boys, parading them with so much fanfare, while Nigerians wait for obvious cases of corruption in government, in certain agencies, in certain institutions within the government to be investigated. But as it turned out, people talk about cabals and then people say there is no cabal. But when you look at how agencies like EFCCs were operating, you'll be tempted to believe that obviously there must be some puppeteers somewhere pulling the strings relentlessly. You see a situation, or you see situations where courts of competent jurisdiction will give directives and the EFCC will do otherwise. We could begin to count that on our fingers. They are yet to read out the allegations against him. But Nigerians and other stakeholders, observers of what has been happening, will tell you a lot of things. There have been a lot of allegations against this young man by people within and outside government concerning the way the agency operated. There have been mention of the EFCC in other cases where the EFCC and its operatives were mentioned to have carried out certain unpalatable activities. We have had that in this country. Unfortunately, he and some other operatives of the past administration carried on as if they were above the law. Because you saw courts giving instructions, directives concerning them.
Okay.
Not on more than one occasion, he was asked to be arrested, but between him and the IG, nothing happened. Then, within the police force, now, you find what I call a scramble for officers to be posted to the EFCC in the last 3-4 years. It became, we learned that people are even paying heavily.
The lobby, seriously.
They pay heavily to be posted. If it is not now lucrative, to use the usual word, will people spend money, time, and energy? So, what became of being a police officer? That all you need to hide now is get posted to the EFCC. Even they go there to take lower ranks or take jobs that are expected of lower ranked officers, and they are comfortable. It shows that it has become some form of money spinning posting. And that's not what that agency should be. It's an agency that should be above board because it is meant to clean subsystems. But
all right, Dari, just hold your thoughts for a moment. We need to go on a break now. We'll be back with the conversation. The program is still Journalist Hangout, and we're looking at the topical issues across the polity in Nigeria and across the world. Welcome to the show. We're back after this break. Welcome back to the program. It's still Journalist Hangout on TVC News, and of course, we're looking at all the topical issues from Nigeria and across the world. Well, the issue we're tracking at this time is the suspension of the EFCC chairman, Abdulrasheed Bawa, following a directive by the President, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, on weighty allegations against the EFCC chairman, which needs to be properly investigated. Our panelist here is Babajide Kolade Otitoju, as well as Dari Odufowokan. Gentlemen, let's sum up our thoughts on this suspension of the EFCC chairman. Looking at the EFCC as an agency, would you say it's an agency set up to see if you would either fail or you will succeed? Looking at the antecedent of the chairman, would you say perhaps anyone who steps into that shoe is bound to at some point be caught up in the web?
There is no doubt that there is a lot of political interference, except we just want to deceive ourselves. Obasanjo used the EFCC to harass his political opponents, no doubt about it. He set up the EFCC, but we saw the EFCC continually going after political opponents. In some cases, politicians from the ruling party, once they have they're on good terms with the president, the EFCC will not bring them to trial. But there are other instances when politicians from the ruling party were put on trial and even jailed. Under Buhari, it is believed that some politicians were jailed under Buhari. So people like Jolly Nyame, the former governor of Plateau State, were jailed. But most of the time, it is the Yahoo boys that they secure conviction against. Two reasons are responsible for this. It is not easy to secure conviction against the politically exposed persons because they have the funds to hire the best lawyers and all that. So the best sons, most of the time, those sons always do the job of securing their release, and they get away with it. But the Yahoo boys, the conviction rate, talking about the Yahoo boys, is extremely high. So you want to give kudos to the FCC for that. But when it comes to the politically exposed persons, most of the time they fail. And the FCC, in terms of conducting due diligence before even putting people on trial, they don't do it enough. They don't do it enough. It's not enough to simply get hold of a petition written by maybe some misguided people somewhere and then file an action against a politician on the basis of that. I've seen a judge dress down the EFCC lawyer and say, look, you didn't do any serious work here. What needs to be done has to be done. If you must secure conviction, you must do due diligence you must do thorough investigation and come up with facts and evidence that will ensure that that person cannot get away. But most of the time, it's not done. Or sometimes they will make some mistakes that are injurious to the case that they are prosecuting. So the quality of prosecution is usually not sufficient to secure the conviction of those big politicians.
But would
so
you
they
say
usually fail.
Would you say the EFCC chairmanship seat is, I mean, based on this narrative,
No, it's a hot seat.
Is it a hot seat that
It's
you are
a
bound
hot
to
seat.
fail, or you could
no,
actually
are
stand
not,
above
I will
board?
not say you are bound to fail.
Okay.
I will not say that you are bound to fail. I will not agree, for example, that Magu failed. I will never agree with anyone who stands before me to say Magu failed. And I will never agree that Magu was corrupt until you give me the proof of his corruption. You know? It's not enough to, because you can see that someone is close to Magu, money gets funneled by error into that person's account, you then want to hold Magu responsible. I mean, that's not facing reality. It means that you are just a rumor monger. You are acting on rumors. And that's what happened with the Prophet O'Malley, that one of the banks, they had computer glitch and money was sent into his church account. And within a short time, they withdrew the money. But the time was long enough for an alert to be triggered. And it was one of the reasons for which they put Magu on trial. You know, you can imagine. Now, that same matter, the Prophet secured judgment against the bank. The bank must pay him billions now. The bank had previously apologized in national newspapers to say, look, this thing happened and it wasn't your account alone that was affected. But Nigerians believe the story. Magu is a thief. They searched his house. They found this, they found that. The man has only one house, and the house is in Karu. If you were a billionaire, you won't go and be living in Karu. And they didn't find, thank God for the kind of wife that he had. His wife was chaperoning them from room to room, ensure that they didn't plant anything and they didn't see anything eliminating.
All right.
So this is the thing. At that time when some of us were defending him, that we were sure that he didn't steal. Nigerians thought we were fools. Some say, Jide, you are all the reputation that you built in your life, you are putting it on one individual. I know Nigerian can be trusted. That is the worst piece of rubbish that I've had in my life, that no Nigerian can be trusted, that no Nigerian, no, now. It's not everybody that is corrupt. Some people would rather tell God to take their lives than steal, than take bribe. In this same country, even in the police, as we abuse the police the way we like, there are still people in the police that you can never bribe them. There are. Some of them, we've talked about them here because they are not ghosts. So I still believe that, look, we've had decent EFCC chairmen. Nuhu Ribadu did an excellent job as EFCC's
before he was
inaugural chairman. He did an excellent job. Look at the millions of dollars he was offered. He filmed it. He handed the money to the CBN. He could have taken it. So we can't be talking about EFCC chairman now and say, no, Ribadu failed. I won't agree. But I know that the political influence is tremendous. But some of them too, because they want to please politicians, they step beyond the line. I think it is possible, and EFCC and ICPC, the job that they do is similar. But the ICPC hardly gets the kind of attention that the EFCC gets. If you ask people now, what's the name of the ICPC
chairman?
Many people don't know. The man is there silently doing his work. They don't get that attention.
Okay.
EFCC.
All right, Vicky, well, let me allow you just driving that point and bring in Dari before we go to the next issue. What's your charge for the acting chairman now, who is the former director of operations, who is stepping into that role now, is enjoying the trust of the president to clean up the system and ensure that the EFCC gets back on track in fighting economic and financial crimes in our country?
Yeah, well, he has his job cut out for him. Then we must quickly say this, he's stepping into that position because he's the next man in rank. It's not as if he's a special nominee of the president. It is just an automatic thing. So it's in acting capacity. He now has an opportunity to prove what he can do. Probably it will get confirmed. Maybe someone else will have to take the job from him. But that depends on Mr. President. But for now, Chukwuka has his job cut out for him. The first thing I would want him to watch out for is that he should be cautious enough not to fall into the web you spoke about, because it is there. The major problem with most persons who come to that seat is the desire to please politicians. It is their greatest undoing. And it happens almost every time. Almost every time. They are the nominees of Mr. President, yes, but they have a job that is well explained by the laws of the land. And but that was even before the Attorney General of the last administration tactically placed the FCC under his office. That is something I've been speaking about, that people, we should watch out for that and cry out about it now. The EFCC, as it is, cannot do anything majorly without taking directives from the Attorney General of the Federal Federation.
Who is a political appointee.
Who is a political appointee. Who will have vested interest in one thing or the other. Who will easily use the EFCC to achieve political goals if he has his way. The law guiding the operations of the EFCC as currently drafted will not help those who will come to the seat of the chairman. Because even when they see obvious reasons to go after certain persons, they may not be able to. If the Attorney General disagrees. And nobody will be talking about the Attorney General. We'll be talking about the FCC chairman. That's obvious. He didn't do anything about it. And when he goes after those that are approved for him, we will accuse him of being selective. So these are challenges
that the acting chairman
of the agency will face. And if we don't understand why it is so now, we may not understand why they will be doing certain things.
Well, I think that's another challenge that the 10th Assembly would also have to review. I mean, it's one of the things that would help the system on the long run. Well,